Welcome. Today we're going to be creating a slideshow inside of iMovie. The first thing that you need to do before creating a slideshow in iMovie is prepare your images. Now, if you do not know how to prepare your images, I am going to show you how to do it inside of Photos. Now, the reason we're using Photos is because a lot of people who are using iMovie are going to be on a Mac, and this is going to be their only photo editing program. I'm going to have a second part in which I show you how to prepare your images inside of Lightroom. So the first thing we're going to do is I have Photos opened up here inside of my computer, and we need to import the images. Now I've put all my images into one folder. So we're going to go up here to File and drop down to Import. Then you need to locate that folder, and I've put it under Website so it's easy for me to find. And right here we have Slideshow Images, and I can open Slideshow Images. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit Command A, which is select all, and then hit Review for Import. Now that's going to give me this preview window. And what it's looking for me to do now is if there's an image or something in here that I don't want, it gives me the chance to remove that. But I'm going to go ahead and click Import All New Photos. And that's going to put everything into my Photos library inside of my computer. And now we are ready to edit. Now, the first thing that you need to know is there are a couple ways to do this. And you've noticed that I have selected all horizontal images. The goal for this video is going to be to fill the screen. However, that does not mean that you have to fill the screen. To understand that, I'm going to go over to Photoshop real quick and show you the difference between ratios so you can understand this. So when preparing your images, you do it right. There isn't a correct way. There's just multiple ways to do something, but each way is going to give you a little bit different result. So we're going to go ahead and hit Create New. And what I'm looking for here is my web. So right here is 1920 by 1080. Now this is a 16:9 ratio, and traditionally what HD video is used in. This ratio is going to be exactly the same as most videos that you're going to output as. The difference here is most images shot on a 35mm camera are a completely different ratio. So what does that mean? Right now we have this, and if I switch to a 16:9 ratio, that's going to fill this frame up perfectly. However, most images are shot on a 2:3 ratio. So if I do a 2:3 ratio, you can see that image will not fill up this whole area unless I expand it and make it bigger widthwise. However, we are going to lose vertical parts of our image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import one of those images and put it in here so you can see what's going on. Now that I've moved that image over this image over to my 16:9 ratio, what we can see here, if we want to use our image full frame, it actually doesn't fill out the frame. We're going to have bars on each side of the image. Now, when you're playing your video, if you have either white or black or whatever color bars you want on the side, it's not a big deal, just that you know that that's going to happen. However, if you wanted to fill the frame, I'm just going to hit Command T here in Photoshop, and we extend this. What's going to happen now is you're going to lose a little portion of the top and the bottom of this image. Now it will fill the frame, but you're losing portions of that image. That's okay. It's just something that you need to know of. It's just something you need to know of before you start editing. Do I mind if I lose a portion of my images, or do I want to show my images full frame? The other thing that you need to know, so let's take that 2:3 ratio image, and we're going to come in here and we're going to rotate that image around. And then I need to size that so it fits. And that's pretty close. So if you take a vertical image, you're going to have a lot of space on each image. Now, this is okay if you're doing a slideshow. You can make the background black or white or whatever color you want. You can even stack two images next to each other. But what you need to know is if you run vertical images, a slideshow can only run horizontally. So you're going to have these edges. So if you want your slideshow for some reason to always fill the frame, a vertical image might not be the best solution for you to add to your project. This is the reason I've selected all horizontal images. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through the images and I'm going to go ahead and process them so that the ratio is cropped exactly how I want to. So once you have your imports in here, and we can just click on photos up here, we have all of our images, and I'm going to click on my very first image and I'm just going to double click that. And when I double click this image, if I come up here, I have something called edit. Now under edit, you have the ability to go in and edit and change the way your image looks. We're going to assume at this point that you've already got these images to where you want them. What we're going to do is go ahead and hit crop. Remember that the aspect ratio for this is 16:9. So I'm going to go ahead and open this little folder right here that says aspect. So right now we have original freeform square 16:9, 2:3. And what we want is that 16:9. Now, if I crop this image and I can move it around however I want it to be, the ratio is going to be exactly the same as the ratio in the movie that we are going to produce. I would go ahead and apply that crop to this image. And now this ratio is going to be the same as the ratio in my movie. And what I can do is just kind of go back in time, and you can see now that that's a longer, thinner image. Then I need to go to my next image, hit edit, go into the crop, go down to 16:9, and then I can move this image and adjust it to how I want to crop it. I can apply that crop and then go back and once again, and I need to go through all my images inside of photos to make sure that I get the crop that I want. However, you can scale images inside of iMovie. So if you do not want to crop your images, you can do a scaling process inside of iMovie, and that will alleviate you from having to do this now. We are now inside of Lightroom, and I'm going to show you how to do the same process inside of Lightroom. But one of the cool things about doing this in Lightroom is it will really speed up the process and make this really, really easy. So the first thing I need to do is import my images into Lightroom. Now that we're inside of Lightroom, I've found the folder and I'm going to import those images into Lightroom. So we're just going to give this a second to go ahead and import those images over and get ready to go. And now we have got that ready. So what we're going to do is go ahead and click on over to the develop module. And there's a couple different ways to do this. So to crop, you're going to come over here and click on the crop button. Once again, you need to designate what ratio you want to use. So if you want to use 16:9, we can come over here to 16:9. And now we have got that ratio and we are set and ready to go. So I can go ahead and just hit return and apply that to that image. And what's cool inside of Lightroom is you can actually apply settings throughout. So I can either manually come in here, go to my next image, hit the crop button, change to 16:9. I can adjust that. Now, by adjusting it, it lets you get the crop exactly how you want it. You can, however, apply these settings to other images. So what we can do here is I can hold Shift and select the rest of my images. I can come over here to sync, and what I want to do is apply my crop to the rest of the images. So over here is a crop button. Now I have all these selected, but I haven't actually done anything, so it's not a big deal, but I do want to apply the crop. So I'm going to go ahead and hit synchronize, and that is going to synchronize and give each one of these images the same crop. Now the downfall of this is that it's automatically doing it. The good part is everything in Photoshop is non-destructive, so we can go ahead and click on our image and it's automatically going to be in the 16:9 ratio. And then what I can do is come in here and readjust that, and it makes it a whole lot easier. Where it's making the crop, it might not be perfect. It's also really easy and less time consuming because it's already applied the correct ratio, I can come in here and adjust that and get that how I want it. So once we've cropped everything, got them looking the way we want, what we want to do is go ahead and export. So we're going to go up here to File, and I'm going to drop down to Export. And we are going to put this in a folder called Sized for Slideshow. So we're going to drag down here. We're not going to rename the files. We're not doing a video. I'm going to save these as a JPEG just because it's easier. We're going to use the color space of sRGB, which is used on the web. And then we're going to go ahead and put height and width. So what we're going to do is do this in pixels. We want our width to be 1920. And then our height is going to be 1080, which is full HD. Remember, this is a pixel dimension, so resolution does not matter. It's going to be this very specific pixels. And this is only if you're doing HD. If you are doing 4K or 2K or something like that, you're going to need to change this to the appropriate size. We are going to sharpen our images for screen. We are going to leave all our metadata in. I am not going to watermark. And then I have this JPEG compression thing. This is something I use. I don't actually usually make slideshows, but we're just going to go ahead and leave that on. But you won't have this available unless you're using JPEG Mini. But we're going to go ahead and export these files. All right, and Lightroom is now finished exporting those files into that folder. So we can go ahead and quit out of Lightroom or just leave it up. It really doesn't matter what you want to do. The next step here is we're going to go ahead and create a new movie. So I'm going to click on Create and then click Movie. And that is going to launch us into Import Media. Once inside your new movie, you need to import your media. So we're going to go ahead and click on Import right here. And you need to navigate to the folder that holds your images. So we are going to open up Downloads. And right here we have Sized for Slideshow. We're going to go Import Selected, which is that folder. And it is going to import all of those sized and prepared images into iMovie. Before we start laying out anything in the timeline, we are going to go up here to iMovie and go into the Preferences. Now in the Preferences, apply slow motion automatically. So if you have slow motion clips, you can do that. That's not going to really matter. So photo placement, we're just going to put fit because we've already sized our images. But if you didn't size your image, you can have iMovie automatically size and fit them to the correct screen size. And then Ken Burns is sort of an effect. But for right now, we're just going to use fit. I have changed my photo duration to 3 seconds. I think the default is 4. Our transition time will be 1. You could make that faster. So in this case, I'm going to do 0.5. So it's a little bit quicker if we decide to use transitions. And that looks good to me. So the next thing we're going to do is simply grab our first image, and it can be any image in here that you want. And we're going to drag it down into the timeline. Because we have designated our images to be 3 seconds long, it's automatically making that clip 3 seconds long. However, if you did want to change the time of this image, you can come to the end where you get those 2 arrows, click and hold with your mouse and drag this way to reduce the time and this way to increase the time. Because this is not a video clip, you can make these exactly however long you would like. Up here is the window in which it is placing the image. You're seeing some little black bars. Don't worry about this. We've sized. It is the correct width. Next thing you're going to do is grab your next image. So I can come here, grab my next image, and I can go ahead and place that down in the timeline. Right here, we have this little slider. So you can see this timeline is eventually going to get so large, it's going to be difficult for me to see all these images. And we don't really need this to be this long. So what we're going to do by removing this to the left, you are reducing the size of the images so you can see more of your timeline. You can also scroll if you need to as well as far as the timeline goes. And basically all you're going to do is come in here and start laying out all of your images into the timeline until you've got them exactly how you want. Now I'm just going to randomly go ahead and place these down because truthfully, this doesn't make any difference to me how these images go. All right, and just like that, all of our images that are in the timeline. If you wanted to play your timeline, all you have to do is take this little cursor and place it wherever you want. So if I go back to the beginning, I can hit the space bar and my video or slideshow will start to run and go through those images. Remember, those are 3 seconds right now, and they are without transitions, and that is just going to go through and play. So that is the first step of putting your images inside iMovie. The next thing that we are going to do is add some transitions or show you some options as far as what you can do. So we're going to come in here to transitions. So up here we have transitions, and this is going to give us a whole bunch of different types of transitions. The most common right here, which is cross dissolve. And if you remember, we set the preference for this transition to last a half a second. I can drag this down in between my two images. And then I'm going to click on this first one. And as I play it, you can see we will get a dissolved transition to the next one. Just something that's a little bit odd. We'll use this mosaic just because it's really easy to see what's going on. We'll place that transition there. I'm going to go ahead, hit the space bar to play, and we're going to get that transition in our image. The problem is with doing a second transition when your images are only 3 seconds, it kind of overlaps a lot of what's going on. So I've moved that to something smaller. I'm going to go ahead and delete that transition and bring up cross dissolve. Most likely you're going to be doing the same transitions throughout your whole video, and you're just going to go ahead and drag those in. I have added transitions in between all of my images, so I'm going to scroll back to the top. The next thing that we're going to go to is titles. So in titles, it gives you a whole bunch of different options as far as titles go. We are just going to use something as the standard to make it simple. If I grab this and I drag it in front of the images, and it is going to allow me to input some text here. I can put slideshow, pause, so I'll put slideshow. And you could put more text here, so I could put my name. Whatever I would want to put inside of this, you can put inside of these different options. So I'll come up here and I will put my wonderful slideshow, and it has my name. If I want to change the fonts or any information in here, we can change the text color, make this bold, change the font, justified left, right. Anything that you'd want to do, you have the availability to do that. And I'll come up here and slide this to the beginning. I'm going to hit the space bar to play, and you can see how that kind of pops up, and then it should transition to my first image. Now I do not have a transition here, so we can come up and grab that cross dissolve and put one in if that's how we would like it to be. And you can add titles wherever you wanted. Now, if you want to add text to an image, what you need to do is if you can grab this little bar here, and we're going to place it. So we'll place it right here in front of this image. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab this transition or this title and put it here. It's too long. I just want it to be exactly the 3 seconds that we did before. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this over to the end of that image, and we will click on the title, and it's going to give us the title right here. So I can double click that, and I will call this mountain. And once again, I can change anything that I'd want to, and we will just kind of go back here in time. I'll play the transition, and you will see just like that, the text appears over top of that image. Now you can add text to any images that you want. It does not matter how you do it. The next thing we're going to do is take a look at adding movement to a stagnant image. This is just a 2-dimensional image. Now we can add some movement to add a little dimension to this video. If you want to do that, you're going to come up here to the crop tool. And what you're going to do is select Ken Burns. Ken Burns is a famous filmmaker, and he sort of added this to his movies in which he was doing documentaries and used a lot of still images. Now, by default, this comes set up. So what this is saying is start and end. Basically, this is going to zoom in. You can come in here and manipulate or change this information. So I can drag this and make this stuff change, go in and out. And you can do the same thing interior. So I could make it zoom all the way over to there. But we're just going to leave this at the default for right now. And what we can do then is come over here to this image. And then when I hit play, you can see it's slowly going to zoom into that image, and then it's going to transfer into the other one. Now this time we're going to come in here and hit crop, and we're going to select Ken Burns. We're going to hit this little flippy flop arrow, and this time it's going to start in the zoom and zoom out. So we're going to be okay with that. So I'm going to slide back to the beginning of this image. And what you're going to see here is this one's going to zoom in, and then it's going to transition to the other image and zoom out. And that's how you can add a little movement inside of your slideshow using the Ken Burns effect. The last thing here that we're going to add is audio to our image. Now, if you do not have audio, there are plenty of places in which you can find free audio to add to your slideshow. You can also make your images transition with the beat of your slideshow if that's something you're interested in. However, you need to find the appropriate music. Now, if you do not have any audio, a really good place and simple to find free audio is going to be YouTube. So we're going to go ahead and launch Chrome here, and I'm going to go into, and what we're going to do is just type in here, free YouTube audio. Now, Google has returned our search for the free YouTube audio library, and that is right here. So we're going to go ahead and click on the audio library for YouTube. I will add the link below this so you can click on it directly. And we're going to go ahead and select that. And that is going to bring us into something that looks like this. Now, the cool thing about this is, remember, we want a specific duration of video. So if we click on 30 seconds to 1 minute, it's going to give us all music that has to do with 30 seconds to a minute. So here you can see we have something that's 54 seconds long. If I want to hear what that sounds like, I can go ahead and click this and it should play. If I don't like it, I can go ahead and move on. You can search by a mood, genre, instrumental, anything that you would want to do. So we can just kind of scroll through here and try different stuff. So I can click on this and see if this sounds good. All right. And let's say that this is my favorite audio and this is exactly what I want to use. It doesn't really make much of a difference. This song does need to be attributed. So you can say right down here, we need to put this in the video description. What this is saying in YouTube, to putting it in your video description, but you can always add this after the end of your video. So just put music or audio by and this person into your timeline. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to select all that right here. And we got a little too much, but that's okay. I'll just delete it later. So I'm going to hit copy. So I've copied that. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to download that file. The next thing that we need to do is import that audio file. Now, audio takes stuff if you have it inside of iTunes, but what we're going to do is actually go to My Media. Then we're going to hit Command I, which is import, and we are going to navigate inside the downloads folder to that song, which is Prelude number 14 right here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit import selected, and then right there is going to be our audio file. Right down here, you can see there's a music section for your timeline. We're going to drag this audio and put it inside of our timeline, and we can manipulate this. Now, what I'm going to do is have this start at the beginning, about halfway through the first song, and we can see, yes, that's going to transition and end out nicely. Now, right here, you have this little bar. This is just a quick way to adjust your audio. So if you lower this, you're going to be, right now I'm at 50%, or I can raise it. So I'm just going to lower my audio a little bit, and then I'm going to scroll back into that timeline. So we're going to come up here to the beginning. I'm going to hit space bar, and this is going to start playing through. Sorry if you don't hear the audio perfect. It's playing through speakers, but I'm using a different type of microphone. And you can see that movie or video that we have created is playing along with the music in the background. We've got those transitions from Ken Burns effect going, and then we have the type. So we're going to allow that, and we would allow it to play through, and we're going to come here to the end. You're going to see the music will start to fade out, and then we'll get into our last two images. And then the last thing that we would do here is add a title at the end. And so we will come back to titles, and I'm going to put just a basic title. We're going to come in here to the text. I'm going to hit Command V. It's going to look weird. Don't worry about it. It's got hyperlinks and stuff in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to select and delete this top part because I didn't mean to have that in. You need to, I'm going to change the color of the type. So right now it's gray. So we're going to click on this. I'm going to come down here. There's all different ways to get colors. We're just going to get these little swatches. We're going to go to white. That's going to make all of our type white. Then when we click back up here, we've got that going. Now we do have some blue here, meaning that those are hyperlinks. If you wanted to change this in, you could easily manually type it, but basically we're giving that accreditation to this image. You could also put produced by your name or whatever else you would want to add to the end of this slideshow. And basically you are done. So you can come through here, you can hit spacebar, let this play through, make sure everything looks good to you. And then once you're done, we're going to show you how to go through and export this video. To export this, we're going to come up to iMovie, we're going to go to File, and then drop down to Share. So how are we going to share this? And you have the option of doing it in an email, as YouTube, for Facebook, for Vimeo, as an image. We're just going to click a file. And in the file, it's going to allow us to rename this. So I will call this My Wonderful Slideshow. I can add that description here. I could add that link that I had to the video so you could find your audio if you wanted, but you could also add any description that you want. So any tags that you would want to do, you can obviously add those as a keywords and searchable. Format, video and audio, because we want the audio and video, but you could do audio only. We were going to do a resolution here. So we have 1080 at 60 frames per second. You could do 4K 720 or 540, but we're doing 1920 by 1080 at 60 frames per second. You can change your quality. So we're going to do high. There's a best, but you could also go into custom and change that to however you would want. But in this case, we'll just go ahead and use high to make it easier. So compress faster or for better quality. I will do better quality since these are images, and we'll go ahead and click next. I'm going to save this into my website location. You can save this to wherever you want this file to reside. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And now this is going to run through a process and render and save this image out. Right up here, you should have a timeline of how fast that's or how long that's taking. And then once it is done, you will see this little pie go around and around and around. And it looks like we can click on this little activity. So right now we can see that it is exporting, and it looks like it's going to take about 2 minutes for this slideshow to be processed. All right, that video is finished processing. So to view that, all you would need to do is navigate to the location that you saved it. Right here is that slideshow. All you need to do is go ahead and double click the file. It will automatically launch into QuickTime on a Mac, and you can go ahead and quit play and enjoy your new slideshow that you've created inside of iMovie. If there's any comments or questions, you can leave those below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.